Hello and welcome back to Parc Fermé Parlay with Kieran Downey, and welcome to part 2 of our mid-season driver ratings. In this episode we'll be going through the drivers ranked P10 to P1. If you haven't seen episode 1, I will link it in the show notes down below, where we go through all the drivers ranked 21st to 11th. And now we're getting into the top 10, baby. And in P10, we have Alex Albon. So far this year, Alex Albon has continued his upward trajectory with Williams, albeit not without some setbacks. He has had the upper hand on his teammate Carlos Sainz when many, including myself, expected Sainz to be the sort of de facto team leader. Albon managed to score points in 7 of the opening 8 races, including a 5th in Miami and Imola, which actually could have been a finish on the podium had Leclerc not ran him wide at the first chicane towards the end of the race. And for all the good drives that Albon's had, as I said, he has had setbacks, a hat-trick of retirements in Spain, Canada and Austria. Usually Albon's losses stem from him not being able to extract the most out of the car in qualifying on weekends where the car is a little bit more tricky to drive. He has also suffered some reliability issues with the car as well. He has said that he does feel more comfortable in the car and that this car is quote-unquote easier to drive on the limit. He has managed to bounce back from that sort of hat-trick of retirements with points in Great Britain and at Spa, and he is performing to an incredibly high level and has been for a while, and Carlos Sainz's arrival to the team has only proved that. You know, there's been a lot of conversation around Albon about, is it Albon performing well, or is it just all his teammates have been performing very, very badly? And when Carlos Sainz was then confirmed to be moving to Williams, the conversation was Albon needs to, step it up because he can't afford to be steamrolled by Carlos Sainz coming to his team. And, he needs to level up and be on the same level as Sainz. And actually, he's been ahead of Sainz in terms of performance levels from the beginning of the year. I think it's a very encouraging year for Albon, even with the sort of setbacks he has experienced. And I do think that it's clear he's a very integral part of the Williams machine and in James Vowell's plans to bring it back to the front. I also think it's very clear how loyal Albon is to Williams and how much he believes in that project as well. So I think, as I said, as much as there has been some setbacks, I think it has been a pretty encouraging year for Alex Albon. In P9, we have Nico Hülkenberg. I think Nico is definitely a midfield star this year. My God, he has shown some fantastic racecraft alongside his usual sort of Mr. Saturday qualifyings. Some of his qualifyings have been a little bit of a letdown, I must be honest. However, he has shown us that he has still got it. He has battled gamely with a limited cyber in the first part of the season, and he's had some solid weekends, managing to bank some good results in a time where it was difficult to make an impression with that car thanks to the pace, the occasional risky strategy, and a fairly erratic car. He's since become the highest midfield point scorer in that sort of second quarter of the season. Standout performance obviously in Silverstone for a maiden podium after, 239 race starts. Silverstone was a very mixed conditioned race. He nailed every single strategy call, and I think one thing that you can say for Hülkenberg is he's very dependable. He's very consistent, and those types of performances show exactly why Sauber have chosen him / Audi have chosen him. We all thought it was going to be a bad season for him and that it was potentially going to be the wrong move. This is a team that really, really struggled in 2024. Are they really going to perform in 25? What is the Audi race program going to be like in 2026? There was so many unknowns. It does seem to have actually been the right move. In P8, we have Isaac Hadjar. Aside from a pretty catastrophic crash in the formation lap in Australia at the opening round and the odd blunder, rear-ending Antonelli in Silverstone, Hadjar, I think, has been impressively dependable in his rookie season. I think he's demonstrated incredible character, managing to pull through after Australia, not letting it be the defining moment of his rookie season, which I think it would have been really easy to do. To then go and fight through pain in his hands in qualifying in Suzuka to start and finish 8th. He's definitely established himself as the leading Racing Bulls driver and is being considered as a teammate for Max Verstappen in 2026. I don't want that to happen just now. I don't want Hajar to move to Red Bull in a period where there is so much chaos at that team. I don't want Hajar to move to Red Bull when he might not be ready for it. This is a thing that has plagued Red Bull for years now. Fast tracking drivers into situations that they might not be entirely ready for. I think what makes sense is for Red Bull to keep Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, keep that as the driver pairing for them, and for Racing Bulls to keep Liam Lawson and Isaac Hajar. There's a lot of talk I'm seeing about Hajar moving to Red Bull and Arvid Lindblad moving into Racing Bulls. No, just leave everyone where they are. Keep Arvid Lindblad in Formula 2 for one more year. He's only 18. There's plenty time. Give him a year there, then move him into Racing Bulls. And leave Hajar in Racing Bulls. Let's not rush him into a seat at the top of the field. We've already done that with Liam Lawson, and look how that turned out. Can we just slow down for just 1 minute, please? However, going back to his performance so far this year, incredibly dependable, incredibly consistent. Yes, as I said, he's had the odd blunder, but he's showing incredible character and great resilience to bounce back from that and not let it consume him in a way that potentially other drivers might have done. I'm kind of talking about Kimi Antonelli there, but I think he's doing a fantastic job, and he's, I think, very refreshing. I think he's an incredibly talented driver. I think he's just a bit of a breath of fresh air in Formula One, and I'm really enjoying Isaac Hajar this year. And I didn't think I would, to be honest with you, but I am loving Hajar. In P7, we have Lewis Hamilton. Now, you guys actually ranked Hamilton quite brutally, and I was actually maybe a little bit generous on Hamilton. 2025 has become a little bit of a recurring nightmare for Lewis Hamilton, and for all the hype around his move to Ferrari, fighting and failing to reach Q3 and being off the pace compared to Charles Leclerc was not part of the plan. Hamilton described himself as useless after his Q2 exit in Hungary, and that was followed by 2 Q1 exits in the sprint and the main qualifying in Spa. We've obviously spoken before about his age and how you begin to lose the outright speed as you get older, but I do believe that there is just a bit more to it than that. I think his age, I think a culture change, I think his difficulty in adapting to the ground effect regulations as a whole all seem to be playing a part in it. Let's remember that it's not just a Ferrari-specific problem that he's struggling with. He struggled at Mercedes, and he struggled ever since the ground effect regulations came in. He cannot adapt to this style of car. And when he's already struggling to get to grip with these regulations, making a huge change like this to a team that is completely different to what you've known for 12 years, it's a lot. It is a lot. I know the age is obviously a big thing that everyone talks about, and, you know, I don't think the comparison's the same when you say, well, look at Fernando Alonso and he's sitting P5 in an Aston Martin. I think it's a bit different, but I don't think that just the age is to blame. I think there's a whole load of stuff. Will he continue to face troubles this year? Probably. I don't think he'll improve massively in the next 10 races. And how will he fare next year? Just going to have to wait and see, aren't we? Coming in at P6, we have Kimi Antonelli. Again, amid very high expectations and plenty of excitement around Antonelli and his rookie season, it's not quite transferred onto the track. Antonelli started off with consistent points before struggling with the stability of the Mercedes that didn't respond well to his driving style. There's been reliability issues from the PU, bizarre strategies from the team, and a fair bit more that's really just led to an underwhelming season so far. And listen, all of these things, as I've said before, will have knocked his confidence. The reliability issues of the car, the not being able to qualify where he's expected, the poor race performances, it'll all have really sort of gotten to him when the pressure's already huge. But somebody actually pointed out in my comments the other day that Toto Wolff is not helping this situation at all. All the hype and the talk around Kimi Antonelli from the team, specifically Toto, has all but vanished. Toto did nothing but talk and hype up Kimi Antonelli throughout 2024, and it feels like he's all but forgotten about him. Toto Wolff is out there enjoying a Max Verstappen summer, whilst the driver that he put everything behind last year is sat waiting, not knowing whether or not he has a contract for next year. I don't know why Toto Wolff is waiting so long to sign Antonelli and Russell for the future. It seemed to me and a lot of other people to be a slam dunk decision, and it's definitely not helping, especially when it comes to Kimi Antonelli. I imagine it would do absolute wonders for Antonelli to have that contract for next year. I think it's wild that they've left Kimi Antonelli in limbo, not knowing whether he does have an extension next year or not. And listen, we don't know what's being said behind closed doors, but all we can see is this boy is really struggling. He seems to have just been sort of left. The hype around him has gone in terms of Toto. They've not given him a new contract, and Toto's off enjoying a Max Verstappen summer. I also think it's wild that Toto wouldn't want to just throw everything behind Kimi. Like, it feels like he's lost faith in the decision that he made. You put him in this situation, you need to be ready to back him. And the backing seems to have gone. It seems to have disappeared. And it won't be helping Antonelli at all that all of that has faded and his team principal is out there flirting with Max Verstappen. Anyway, it was a solid start to the year for Antonelli, followed by some erratic and quite disappointing performances, Miami sprint pole and an outstanding drive to P3 in Canada as outliers to that. His rookie campaign has lacked consistency, I will say that, and the sort of flashes of greatness have been few and far between. Playing devil's advocate, I will say that the Mercedes suspension was definitely not working, and a switch to the old spec definitely seems to be in the right move. I think along with Hamilton, Antonelli really needed the summer break to sort of rest and reset after a sort of mixed bag of a season so far, with a fair bit of misfortune and a fairly big dent to his confidence. In P5, we have Charles Leclerc. Charles has consistently had the upper hand over Hamilton at Ferrari and has been getting the most out of that car. He's taken all 5 of the team's podiums this year. He's delivered some stunning laps to get that car to the front row in Bahrain, Monaco, Austria, and a very shock pole position in Hungary. He has had his difficulties, specifically in the wet, crashing on the way to the grid in Miami, and a terrible race in Silverstone. And it's funny because Leclerc does see his wet driving as a strength, and he ascribes his difficulties to the challenges of the car, which, to be fair, he may actually have a point in. I think it's hard to predict the rest of the season for Charles Leclerc. I don't know what it has in store. I can't really predict Charles and Ferrari because whenever I think it's going to go great, it's terrible, and whenever I think it's going to be terrible, it somehow seems to be amazing. Like, I didn't expect him to get pole in Hungary, and he did, and then I thought we're on for a winner here, and it was a complete and utter shit show. I just don't know what these next 10 races hold for Leclerc, to be honest with you, because I could never have predicted what has happened these past 14. In P4, and I think this will surprise a lot of people, I have Lando Norris. I think a lot of people will be surprised Lando is ranked 4th, and I think that is probably down to my ranking. There was a lot of 10 out of 10s for Lando Norris, and as I said, I don't think anyone has driven a 10 out of 10 season so far, especially not Lando Norris. At his best, Lando has been outstanding. However, he has not been at his best often enough. Norris himself has admitted that he makes his life difficult, and where he's excelled in the likes of Austria, Monaco, Silverstone have been offset by weekends like Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Canada, where the errors and crashes have held him back. You could argue, and you would have a very good argument to say that he's very fortunate to have gone into the summer break only 9 points off the leader in the Drivers' Championship. Norris's mistakes always seem to come at key points in the weekend, such as qualifying, when the pressure piles on and he pushes maybe a little bit too hard, and that's when the mistakes begin to creep in. That being said, as much as he's had difficulties and errors and mistakes, he has had some phenomenal drives, an incredible pole position in Monaco, a phenomenal home win at Silverstone, an incredible drive in Hungary. The package is there. The car is there, the racecraft's there, the pace is there. It's just he lets the pressure get to him, and that's where the mistakes begin to creep in. That being said, however, as I mentioned, he is only 9 points behind Piastri in the Drivers' Championship, so it's not been a poor campaign from Norris so far this year. And in P3, we have Max Verstappen. Max was a very mixed bag for you guys. Some of you rated him very, very highly. Some of you rated him very, very poorly. I think this year Max has silenced those who have said that he can only win in the best car on the grid. He absolutely stunned the McLarens and everyone else with a spectacular pole position in Suzuka, which he obviously then converted into the race win. He's then followed that up with some incredible qualifying performances in Jeddah, Miami, Silverstone, when few expected him to in a very difficult car. And let's not forget his lap 1 overtake on Piastri in Imola, which will probably go down as one of the best overtakes in recent memory, when he just sent it down the outside on cold tyres and went on to win that race. And listen, it hasn't been a perfect season for Verstappen, you know, a little bit the red mist in Spain causing a collision with George Russell. We then go to Austria and we have Antonelli's blunder, which forces Verstappen to retire from the race. And then we have a fair few meh weekends in the likes of Silverstone and Hungary, where the Red Bull has just really struggled. At his best, he is absolutely mighty, and he is willing to absolutely send it, risk it all and put it all on the line, and it pays him back. You know, very few drivers would have been able to take the wins in Suzuka and Imola like Max Verstappen did. And whilst he isn't going to equal Schumacher's record with 5 consecutive World Drivers' Championships, he is still driving like a champion. In P2, George Russell. George Russell has said that he is driving better than ever this year, and you can see why with 6 podiums, including a win in Canada. He's been a bit of a silent assassin this year, George Russell, with the struggles of Mercedes, that he's been quick at times, but then has dropped out of contention when it's too hot, a tricky new rear suspension that's been dropped, PU issues, all of which have, I would say, shrouded George Russell's excellence. What I will say for George Russell is he has been consistently good and is one of the most consistent drivers in current Formula One. And let's not forget, he also managed to defend and hold off Lando Norris in Bahrain to take second, despite the fact that he had lost all of his telemetry in the closing stages of the race. He's taken on the team leader role at Mercedes in his stride following Hamilton's departure. And again, I think it's wild that he does not have a contract for next year. I think George Russell and Kimi Antonelli as the Mercedes duo is a slam dunk pairing. I don't get what Toto's playing at. And I don't know whether this could be a factor in it. Mercedes seem to be quite a fan of a 1-year contract at the moment. And I don't know whether, because of Russell's good performances, he's not willing to take the 1 year. He wants the multi-year. I don't know whether that's slowing things down, but my God, can we just sign these two? I think this is just a slam dunk yes. I just don't know what Toto's doing, to be honest. Well, I know what he's doing. He's currently enjoying a Max Verstappen summer, as I said, but I just thought that would be just like, yep, here we are, done. This is my driver pairing. I don't know why we're in the summer break and that's still not been announced yet. And finally, in P1, we have Oscar Piastri. I think it's safe to say that Oscar Piastri's consistency and his cool demeanour is his super weapon. Coming into 2025, I think the big question about Oscar Piastri was always going to be his raw speed. However, he's definitely turned that around this year with 4 pole positions, and he's definitely been the cleaner out of the McLaren pair. Since his costly mistake in Australia, he's been on a roll. He's won a hat-trick of races in Bahrain, Saudi and Miami. He leads the championship currently by 9 points, and even with Norris winning the past 3 out of the 4 rounds, Piastri has largely managed to keep his cool, and I do think that his calm demeanour will definitely play a part in the next 10 races as things really begin to heat up between the two. Piastri's best performances have been excellent and his worst performances have been consistently good. I think Piastri's in a very good spot for the next 10 races, and I think his season so far is proof that you win titles with your performances on your bad days, and his performances on his bad days have generally been very, very good this year. I think it's going to be a very tight battle between the two McLaren drivers coming into the next 10 races. However, I do think that Piastri has the edge on his teammate. He has the raw speed, he has the pace, he has the racecraft, he has the consistency, he doesn't really get flustered, he's got that cool, calm, collected demeanour, I think he's got a massive advantage over Lando Norris, and I think he does have the edge coming into these next 10 races. And that is everything from us from our mid-season driver ratings. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure to follow along at Parc Fermé Parlay on Threads, TikTok, Instagram. We will be back very, very soon with our predictions for the rest of the season before we head off to Zandvoort for the first of the next 10 races. Thank you very much for watching and listening along. We'll see you very soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Love you. Bye.